Okay, welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Jane Irrigation Training Series. I'm your host, Richard Restuccia, and today we're going to be talking about something that I think is going to really accelerate and be game-changing in the agricultural water arena. You know, a few years ago, I had best-selling author Charles Fishman on the webinar, and we were talking about what it's going to take to really get technology use up in the agricultural world. And one of the things he said, and I really agree with it, is it's going to take some incentives. These guys are great. These growers, these ranchers are great business people. You offer them incentives to start using technology and they'll take advantage of it. So I'm not going to take credit or to give Charles credit for bringing it up on the webinar, but we definitely have seen more incentives coming in to invest in technology for water on your farms and ranches. And today, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, these incentives. And you know, the other thing, whenever I hear incentives to do things, I always think, oh, they're complicated. How am I going to figure it out? Well, we've got a couple of guys that are going to help you figure it out, that want to make this happen for you. And the first is Mike Wanzel from Agri-Valley Irrigation. You know, Mike's been in Central Valley all his life, involved in agriculture, but more importantly, he's a guy who's actually gotten quite a few of these grants through. And I say it that way, right? Because I think a lot of people are skeptical, but he's got a really good track record. I'm not talking about 100%, but very close to. And so he's here to explain the process today of how to get grant money or how to get some funding. And more importantly, how he can help you get this. And then along with Mike today is David Lindsay, Technical Sales Manager for Jane Irrigation, working in the ag technology arena. He has also been very active in this since 2015. So a couple of guys that have some experience that are willing to share it. We're really lucky they're here. So Mike and Dave, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Mike, the first question I have for you before we get in your presentation is, you know, are you seeing this? Is what Charles Fishman said correct? As we start to offer some incentives, people are taking advantage of this?
Oh, completely. Last year's SWEET program, I think they funded 350 projects, something like that. And I think there was a total of, I think it was double that amount of people that applied. You know, so I think at least for the SWEET program, it's starting to take hold a lot more. I think there's a lot more companies that are also promoting it as well to get people to understand what this program's about. And then also with the NRCS EQIP, you know, it's a revolving door type of thing, so people can always apply for it. But I think, you know, that can be reached out a little bit more. It's been around for a long time. I think people kind of forget about it. It does not a fully funded type of program like SWEEP is, but it's a pretty good incentive for somebody to want to improve their farmland, either as they plant something new or want to improve anything on the farm.
Yeah, so Mike, just applying doesn't mean you're going to get it. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so again, when having somebody like yourself guiding me through the process will be very helpful. But what about these people that say, gee, I'm going to go through all this paperwork, I'm going to go to all this work, and then I'll probably not get the money? What do you have to say to them?
It's a possibility. But if you're going to be, if you're not in a hurry to improve your farm, why not take the time to go for the incentives that are out there anyways? Now, if we need to do it tomorrow, I can tell you that these programs are not meant for those type of growers. But if you're willing and you're planning out for, say, a year down the road, 6, 8, 9, a year and a half, 2 years down the road, then yeah, I mean, might as well take advantage of it now, apply, hopefully get approved. And if you don't, at least you know what your costs are going to be up front. So you can at least get if you need a loan or if you need, to talk to somebody to get that figured out, you can at least get that lined up, and have the time to know what your funding is going to be. That way it's not a surprise.
Yeah, and you make a really good point too, not in a hurry. And one thing's for sure is I've yet to meet a grower that said, yeah, I bought this farm and I'm gonna fix it up in the next year and flip it. right? I mean, this
Right.
usually this farming and ranching is a long-term investment, and maybe is passed from another, your family to you, or it's also long-term minded. That I think that that really gives these owners advantage in doing projects like this.
No, and that's true. It's especially for families that, or any grower that's been around for a long time, as they're seeing some of either their older orchards, or they're trying to rethink the way that they do their farming for the next 10, 15, 20 years, or whether it be a smaller grower, 1, 2, 3 acre grower, and they just want to make it a little bit easier on themselves. They don't have a lot of funding coming in. These programs are really good to help give them a boost and help them get a little bit more money in their pocket for their crop. That way it's not just going into paying off for these big projects to be implemented.
Right. So Dave, this is what you've been seeing too?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just reminiscing about a grower that's in Visalia area. He has 20 acres. He just retired. He has a small company that's managing the property for him, and they use our technology on the remote side. And he was a SWEEP grantee back in, I think it was 2018. So he's been using it for a while, and now he's retired and he's driving around the country in an RV with his wife, and he can see everything that's going on. And then I look at the guy I just left in the Alpol area, who has 160 acres, multiple sets, same exact thing. He was a SWEEP grantee in 2020. So he's going into his second year, and it's all automation, and he's using all the probe data and everything to its utmost efficiency. And he didn't tell me what his calculations were, but he said the system paid for itself. So that's all I care about.
Right. That's what you want to hear. So, well, Mike, we're interested to see what you have here. Let's go through it.
Right. Screen is being able to be seen, right?
Oh yeah, looking
Perfect.
good.
All right. So like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about these grant programs and incentivizing for SWEEP and NRCS. So first we're going to talk about the SWEEP program. So SWEEP, the State Water Efficiency and Enhancement Program. If you're in California, every government program has a fun acronym. And then we're going to talk about the EQIP program, the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. So for SWEEP, its purpose for the last, I would say, 8 years has been to reduce water use and energy use for greenhouse gas emissions. They've done over 800 projects so far. I think they'll be at over 1,000 here soon, since 2014. Last year they had, I believe it was $50 million. That was based on a first come, first served basis. So if you were able to get it in, you're able to get it out. And for each tax ID number, you were able to get some money out of that. So we'll go more into that. As far as this year, there's a lot of unknowns, but I'll kind of explain that down the road. So there's different things that people are looking into when it comes to the SWEEP program. The first is irrigation conservation. So they are wanting to make sure that you have, if you have a flood, that you're upgrading to also doing micro irrigation, drip, tape systems, putting in some sort of soil moisture probe system like Jane Logic. That way they can see the data and see how much water you're actually saving. They're also looking at low pressure systems. So if you're going from a high impact sprinkler, like I said, going into maybe a jet system or something that has a little bit less pressure on it. And then of course, your greenhouse gas reduction, converting from diesel to electric pumps, improving on your pumps. So if you have a pump that has a really low efficiency, upgrading that to something that is newer that you can go through, and also in adding a variable frequency drive, a VFD, to help control that pump as you're pumping. That way you're using less energy as it's going in there. So that's, I think the VFD route for some of these growers is a good thing. I think it could be beneficial. They can start saving some dollars, especially as PG&E prices continue to go up.
So if I'm thinking about applying and I'm thinking about what my goals are, I really should keep this greenhouse gas reduction at the front of my mind. How does what I buy impact this?
For sure. Yes. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to want to do all of that irrigation conservation, but you need to look at your well, you need to look at what you have that's pushing that water out into your field. And if it's old, you might as well improve the whole system instead of just saying, I just want the irrigation, all the new irrigation stuff. Because if your pump goes out or if you're not as efficient, it could, especially in the sweep program, it could have some dock points in there. I'm not say dock, but you won't get added points into it. So you might as well swing for the fences on this.
Yeah, right. And I mean, if you're getting the help, you might as well, upgrade it all the way. It's just amazing what a variable pump has done for variable drive pump has done for electric costs. I mean, you're gonna come out ahead in a couple different ways.
Yes, no, especially, especially with anything. I mean, if you're having to do it in multiple sets, maybe not everything lines up to be perfect. So if if the pounds or the gallons a minute that are going out to that section of that field is less, you'll be able to slow down that load that's going through that pump to give the correct amount of energy to push it out into the field for the water that you need.
Yeah. Cool.
So anyways, I as far as the new year that's coming out, there's not a lot out there yet. I've been emailing and doing everything that I could to figure out what is going to be new. So there's not a whole lot. So I just kind of want to go over the application process. That way people know what there is. So
I just want to ask you a question on this, Mike, and that is, so we're confident there's going to be a sweep program.
Oh, for sure.
And so to start gathering information now is really a good idea, right? It's just going to speed the process. As you mentioned, it's first come, first serve at times. So if you're gathering your information now, it's just going to make a stronger application.
Right. So usually what happens with the sweep program is they open up the sweep program and then people kind of do their thing to get all their stuff ready. And then right before the deadline, there's about 1 million projects that get applied during that time period. So if you're able to get it done and be able to review it and write it, and then whenever we do the application process, there's a lot less stress because you have all this information already done. And we can review and make sure that everything is kind of lined up right, so you can get the most points to get awarded the grant.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I also just want to remind everybody, I've got the Q&A and the chat open. So if you have some questions about the process or the paperwork or how to do something, put them in there and I'll get those questions to Mike and David.
Yeah, so it's perfect because there's always a lot of questions I get with this. So the application process, first there's the budget template. It's pretty straightforward. I'll have that kind of go through that here in a minute. But then there's other things that people don't think about. A greenhouse gas calculator tool that basically goes through and calculates how much greenhouse gases you're going to be saving with the whole project as a whole. There's also an irrigation water savings tool. So if you add Jane Logic, that gets calculated in with what you had before. If it was nothing, then if you add that into there's a certain percentage that they're looking for the water savings going with that. So if you add the soil moisture probes, and then if you keep adding things where you get something like the Jane Logic system, where that is a very efficient tool that gives you a lot of data to help you make conscientious choices of how and when to water, then you'll be able to get the maximum savings on that through that tool. You obviously need a complete project design. It can be either completely designed if you have a new field, or it can be as simple as a Google map where you kind of draw everything out where this, if you're just adding soil moisture probe and, a water saving device to it, You can map that, putting a filter station in if you're not doing anything to the field. So it can be as simple as that to a more complicated project as a whole complete field redesign.
So Mike, we've got our first question coming in
Yes.
from a viewer, and this question is, who can assist with assessing the reduction in greenhouse gases for their farm and ranch?
I mean, we can. It's as far as the greenhouse gas calculator tool, if you're going into that, I'll show you kind of what it looks like here in a minute. But it is there's certain things you need to put in there, and then the CDFA has a calculated tool that they put in for this through the Prop 68 funding that they did, and it has all of the mathematics behind it, and it comes out with what your savings would be over that period of time with whatever savings and whatever it is that you're putting in, which I'll have that answer more in detail in a second.
Okay, so for somebody like me who really doesn't, I mean, I get the big concept of a greenhouse gas, but I'm not sure how it applies to, my farm.
Right.
This is going to ask me some questions I should know about my farm or the technology I'm buying, how many gallons I'm saving, what the pump reduction is going to be, and it'll just calculate it for me.
Yeah, and it makes it pretty simple, and I try to do that. That way, the growers have plenty of other things to worry about. I find it as my job to do all of these different tools and then present them to the grower, because they're going to see the numbers and they're not going to understand it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do this with multiple projects. I go to all these meetings. I go, I do all of the behind the scenes work. That way, whenever I, come to a designer or to a grower, they'll be able to understand, looking at this paper, like, what does this mean?
Yeah. So Dave, I know you had your hand up. We're going to go to you in a second, but it's like anything. If I do it once a year and I only do it once a year, then I have to relearn it every year.
Correct.
If I'm helping 30 or 40 people do it once a year, I really know it from year to year. So Dave, your comment?
I just wanted to add to the greenhouse gas calculator. The tool is there for people to use. And I know exactly what Mike and you were talking about. There could be some complexities there. But an example I use all the time is that if you drive out to the site and your truck's a diesel, save your gas receipts because you're going automation. So Jane Logic would be one of those things that would reduce your greenhouse gas because you're no longer filling your truck with diesel to drive out there to do a pump turn on or to change your valves. So it could be as simple as that. And if you look at it that way, it helps kind of build how does that tool work.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you keep going with this, and just talking about diesel, and all of that, you need energy bills. So whether your pump is electric or diesel, you need a full year of receipts. So if you do have a diesel pump out there and you're filling it up, make sure you have your year's worth of bills for that. I know that's sometimes is a pain. If you need, your 12 months of energy bills, get them, download them from PG&E's website if you don't have them, or Southern California, and whoever you use, and have those ready as we get closer. But you want the last 12 months of when you're going to be applying. So I would say October, November, if they open it by then, have all of those ready and set to go. And then also another thing people need is a pump efficiency test. And it has to be within the last year. So if you've got a pump, a newer pump, and you have the pump efficiency test, excellent. If you need one done, we have a set of people that, throughout the valley that we call and have them do it, and have them do it for us. It's rather inexpensive. Sometimes you want to call your pump guy and have it done, but they might take a month because they're so busy with pumps. But we have specific people that I have in my speed dial that's what they do. They just do these pump efficiency tests. So if we need it for the sweep program, we can get that lined up for them.
Wow, that's pretty helpful. I'm going to take you up on that one. That's for sure.
I'm hoping eventually where I can be able to do that and offer that as a service as well. But that's, it's still trying to get that in the pipeline to be able to do that, to become more of that whole service from start to finish.
Right.
And just a couple things to know when you are applying. So for this whole application process, there is only one application per applicant. So if you are doing, say you have only one tax ID number, but you have multiple fields, you can only use that one tax ID number for that field. So if you have multiple tax ID numbers that have different field names, then you can kind of do it for each one. But I mean, that's another way of doing it. So just to kind of throw that out there, if you only have one tax ID number or FEID number, then only plan for one field. But you can do multiple fields if you have different FEID, or say if you don't have one of those, you can maybe apply under your wife's name or anything like that. That's part of your farming operation. So it can kind of help yourself out with that. So here's the budget template.
Okay, there's a lot of fine print on there. But there's not that many lines. I'm surprised.
So basically it's broken up into 5 different sections. I'll talk about 4 and then I'll talk about the solar at the end. So you have your irrigation improvements is that first line on the far left. Basically we break down, you've got, you're using 12-inch, schedule 100 IPS, whatever, however you want to break it down, gasketed pipe. And then we put down the tees that you're going to be using. And then you're going to be putting what type of hose, what type of, emitters, and we break all that down line by line. And so that kind of puts that into there. Same thing for water management. That would be your Jane Logic. And then all the breakdown of the things, the soil moisture probes, the weather station. And then we would also put in the labor that for each column as well, that would go into there. Same thing for pumps. If you're getting a new pump, you got to put in the casing, you got the bowls, you've got all of that. So that all needs to be put in the labor. And then there's others. So if you have any other things that you're going to be putting in for supplies or equipment, I haven't had a whole lot of others, but that's there as well. And then if you want solar, we can either if you have a guy that you want to put in solar with this project, or hey, I want solar, I can give you a number, call them, we get a quote, then we put that in as well. And there's a couple of things that we need to know about that, but that's another discussion. But as you go through all of those, if I can't help, you can always reach out with the technical assistant program that is out there as well. But I would like to help as much as possible to get this part done, because if we're especially designing it from start to finish, this is pretty easy to put in there. So then the big thing that they're looking for when they do this project is making sure that the design is consistent with the budget. That I'm not going to be putting in, I'm saying I'm putting in a 6-inch pipe, but I'm really putting in 4-inch.
Right.
So that's kind of what they're looking for.
So are there people at NRCS or at SWEEP that help too?
Yes, there are technical service people. The CDFA has people in Merced County, and there is people in Fresno County that help with all over the place, to Larry. And I'm trying, as I've been doing this, reaching out more with them and trying to get a better relationship that way. Because they're dealing with multiple projects too. It's not just SWEEP. They deal with healthy soils. They're out, checking all of this stuff as well to make sure that it is still running. If something's broken, they get a hold of us and make sure that we know that there's an issue. That way we can help them fix that problem as well. So they're out and busy, but if their focus isn't SWEEP and their focus is healthy soil, they may not have the time, you know what I'm saying, that they have their own thing that they're trying to figure out as well.
Right. So, and we had another question come in, and I just want to remind everybody, we will send a complete recording to you in an email later on today. So you will have all this information, all the slides to look at from that emailed recording.
All right. One of the other tools, which to me, sometimes it can get confusing. It's called the Irrigation Assessment tool. As you can see, this one's a little more complicated. We need to know kind of where you look at those little drop down highlighted blues. That's kind of the most important thing. So we need to know what type of soil you have, what your crop is going to be. Then it has your baseline township and range. We can find that out through the one of the websites that are offered in there, but that kind of gives you the water that you can be able to use, the total amount, and it breaks all of that. So you have a before. So this page right here is specifically before. So if you're using surface irrigation and you had all these as an example, sand without, using alfalfa, and you're in this baseline township and range, then you would be using through their estimation 105 acre inches per acre per year. Then you would okay, go to the next page, looks the exact same thing, put all that same information in, but now you're going to be using drip, with it has a whole line with drip automation, all of that. Then it'll recalculate it, and as long as you're saving water, if it drops from 105 to like 97 or whatever it's going to be, and it's showing your water, then you put that in part of the application that you're saving 8 acre inches of water per acre per year. So it looks intimidating, and it can be, because but it's just one of those extra things that they want to have for estimations to know what the water savings is going to be over a 10-year period.
All right, so they're just going to ask you some questions. If you know what you're buying or what's designed, you're going to be able to answer them. It'll do the calculation for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this is the other one that we had a question about, is the greenhouse gas calculator. We want this filled out as best as possible. The CDFA has told me last year the two important pieces are the overall pumping efficiency and the horsepower. Everything else is pretty simple. I mean, if you're using if it's electric, you want to know what your horsepower is. If you don't know, you need to figure it out. If you know what your operating hours are per year, cool. Like that helps make it even, more precise. If you know everything about your system, as your pressure with all that, if you have a VFD or if you don't, it'll project all of this stuff. And then this bottom page, your water savings, that's from the previous tool. You put your post project, what your water savings are going to be, and it'll calculate what your greenhouse gas savings will be per year. And so pretty simple. This is the second page of it. So this is the page that would give you what your totals would be as far as what your baseline usage would be, and it breaks it down with your funds and the total reductions for what you're applying for.
So yeah, if you've got a handle on an Excel spreadsheet, you're going to be okay with this.
Right. And so now you're ready to apply, or you have applied. So you go through, you fill all that out, you do the ridiculously long application that goes along with it. You're answering a lot. When you do the application, it's very not redundant, but it asks a lot of similar questions that you have to tweak and write and explain, because it's a grant. I mean, grants are not the easiest to write and answer all these questions for. My average time is anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours to do an application, plus to review it, make sure that everything sounds right, have the grower review it, and then submit it. So once you do that, then you wait. So it'll go under review. I don't know what they're going to do this year. Last year they did a first come, first serve. If you didn't get the total points to move on to the technical review and get accepted, it gets rejected. You have a chance to rewrite it and then resubmit it. So I had a grower that had that happen last year, where he was missing. He did it himself. He was missing some stuff. I rewrote it, resubmitted it. He got awarded. So I don't know what they're going to do this year. The year before, it was hey, you turn it in once, then we'll review all of them all at one time. Highest points gets the reward until the money runs out. So I don't know what's happening, but we'll see as meetings come out and what they will come out with. Hopefully this sooner than later, or hopefully this fall, we know what is going on.
Yeah, Mike, that's actually very encouraging, right? Because I always feel like, oh, I made one mistake and I got rejected. But in this case, you can see what you missed
Right.
and add it and maybe come out ahead anyway.
Right.
That's really generous.
And having that last year, so if they do change it this year to where they're going to, you turn it in once and then we'll review it all. So you only have that one chance to do it. Having that opportunity to see what the rejection was last year and be able to tweak it and put it back in. So I have a little more familiarity now of, okay, this wording didn't work right, or you were missing this. So you can kind of see before it goes into the technical review what they're looking at. And this is kind of the breakdown of what they are looking for. So you have a 50-point system. You're looking for, this is based off of 2 years ago, or just about the same, 2 years ago, but they had 12 points for merit and feasibility. So that's basically, you filled out everything, all of your feasibility breakdown of everything looks good. They did another 12 points if you did all of your water savings and your calculations correctly. You have another 12 points for your greenhouse gas calculator, and it bases on how much, what your total, greenhouse gas savings are. So the more you saved, I think the higher your points go. And then another 8 points if your budget's on par. And then they had some additional considerations last year. They basically did it if you were a new farmer, a new grower, you got funded. And then if you were a socially disadvantaged area, you got some points for that, and socially disadvantaged farmers as well. So they only had about 3 points. Usually they had a little bit more than that. In the past, they had it where if you were, hey, I'm going to throw some money into this, you'll get some points, but they got rid of that.
So if I apply if my total cost is 100 grand, can I apply for 100 grand?
Yeah. So they do have a maximum allowance. Last year it was 200,000 per project. The year before was only 100,000. So they do have a maximum allowance, and if you do it, you just apply for that total 200,000, and you're out of pocket for whatever the rest of the cost is.
Yeah, and so sometimes if I apply for 100 grand, do sometimes I get 50 grand or 10 grand?
No, it's usually the whole thing. So
Yeah.
what you're applying for is what you're applying for, and if you get it, you get it. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. I mean, there's no, we're going to cut this out, we're going to cut this out. Like, we're funding your project, and you stick to it, we'll stick on our end. That's pretty much what they're saying, and you're being able to use that grant money for that project.
Okay, great.
Use or lose.
So there is a sweet project that is out right now. So I don't know if there are any growers down in the South Desert area, but this is a pilot program that got approved last year. That's part of the sweep funding. It's a sweep pilot project for the Southern Desert. So this is a $2 million pilot project that has been talked about since March. They've done a whole bunch of feasibility stuff, did their questions, and did all that. They've put it all together. And this is your area of focus is the Southern Desert region. It's very specific area. So it's Imperial County and Riverside County, east of the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto Mountains. This is the map of it, basically. It's a lot of mountains, but it's the Salton Sea, north and south, all the way down to the border, and then right along the edge of the Arizona border. So they use a lot of the Colorado River, a lot of flood. They use a lot of water, 10-acre feed on their leafy greens on some things that they use. I mean, so they have a really specific market for their lettuces, where it's, they go in, they're out in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They use that water to grow it really quick on their microgreens. So the CDFA is hoping to help them kind of pull away from flood, make something more efficient, and hopefully reduce some of that water, so they're not having to receive less water for the future.
Yeah, it's big alfalfa country down there too.
It is a lot of it down there. So it's it's going to be interesting how this pilot program pans out, because I know there's not, there's not a lot down there as far as help for this program, So they're seeing how it works out just for focusing specifically in this region. So the applications are now through November 8th. They're doing it not a first come first serve, but you turn it in. Then we'll do a technical review in November and December, and then they'll announce the funding of who got it in January of next year.
That's pretty fast.
It is, and this is usually how it works. You have 8 weeks. You turn it in, like it's quick. So that's why we're having this today. That way, if people are thinking of wanting to do this, you might as well get at least a little bit ahead. And then whenever they do release, this is what we're going to be doing. We can at least make the small tweaks we need to do to it to make sure that it's right, and we can get it in and written up right. So that it's turned in on time without having to rush.
Yeah, that's great.
So, I mean, it's the same thing. If you're doing for this pilot program, the only difference is you are not required to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from irrigation pumping. So you can use your same pump, because some pumps, they are not on the same field. So they might be a different field from here to there. But if you're using your same pump, as long as you're not going up in greenhouse gas emissions, you'll be fine. That's kind of the big thing that they're looking at for it for this coming year.
Yeah, they're making it easy.
Yes. Oh, as easy as you can get it. So these are what they're saying this year for the Southern California, the pilot, $200,000. You have 18 months to do it. That's a shorter period than the last year's one, which is 24 months, and an anticipated start date. So you get approved, they go through, they'll ask and make sure that you're wanting to still do it, is May 1st, 2023. So you'll have 18 months after that to get that going.
But I should know about the start of the growing season next year.
Right. Yes. So, I mean, and you have 18 months. So, May 1st, okay, I've got this here, I've got that there, I've got a 3-week window or a 1-month window, or I can do it after in the winter. So you can really figure out when it works best for you, but you just have those 18 months to get it started and finished.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's fair.
Scoring is a little bit different, 25 points. And they're in the sweep thing. It has a whole breakdown of the scoring guidance. It's about the same thing. The merit and feasibility, the points are a little bit higher at 16 points. And then you have to, because you're not going to be increasing your greenhouse gas emission, you have to promise that you're not going to increase greenhouse gas emissions. So you'll get points for that. Then your budget's 12 or 10 points. So it's a little bit different to get off of that scale. So you need 25. Usually, I think before you need 30 points out of the 50 to make it. So it's a little bit less. And then there will be a priority, 25% of these sweep projects for the socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers, and priority population for the different ethnicities, either it be Asian Pacific, Hispanic, I forget all of them exactly, but there's a list of those as well, 5 or 6 for different populations.
Nice.
These are some of the projects that we did over the last 2 years. Once you get awarded, you get this project in, we get it done, we get it installed, you go back through, you don't get paid for it until it is finalized and approved. And even then, it takes anywhere from 45 to 90 days when the grower will get paid before you can pay whomever you need to pay off back. So for us, it takes us a while, but if a grower has the money and is like, cool, yeah, we're just going to pay you now, and then they'll get paid later. So, usually you got to sit, and it's once your project gets finished and verified, it takes a while to come in and you get your money back.
Well, that
So,
makes sense. I mean, it's enough money to where I can wait a little time, and I certainly understand that they want to verify that I did everything.
yeah. So that's sweep. I don't know if there's any questions on this at the moment before I move on to the EQIP program.
Yep, I think we're ready to move on to EQIP.
All right. Though this one's not as complex as sweep.
And
So
this is a nationwide program,
this
right?
is a nationwide program. They've been doing it for a long time. It's usually a revolving door where they do different funding for different times and different periods like that. So this year, no, or not this year, but usually this is what it is. The EQIP program, it's a voluntary conservation program done by the USDA NRCS, and it gives the landowner just some help. It's not fully funded, but it helps. On our end, we would do the design to meet the NRCS EQIP funding. You would turn it in, and then you would talk with their technical service people. Once you're able to get it in there, it goes over, you get prioritized, and you get it going. So as far as your payment to the grower, they're preset. There's a whole list of what you get per acre or different thing on the EQIP website. And then you get reimbursed after the project is done. So usually during an NRCS project, a technical advisor will come out once to make sure that all of the underground piping is the correct size. And then once that's done, they'll come back and inspect for everything else above ground. And then after that's done, you'll get your funding. And then usually growers you have to pay the upfront costs with your own funds, unless there is an option to get an advance payment. So the selection process, which I was just talking about, they rank it. So they'll go through, they'll talk with you about it. They have a specific way that they rank their projects, and that'll tell you kind of where you sit as far as your future management systems. And then once it's ranked against other similar eligible applications in the same pool, the highest score receives their contract first. And then it works its way down from there. Talking with the NRCS this morning, if you were to apply today, it doesn't matter where you're at here in the Valley, the review and going through the design acceptance, it's looking like it's the spring right now. And then you would be able to start your project for infield about midsummer. And from what one of the guys told me, they are incentivizing if you're tying your surface water into your system. So that's another thing that they are looking at too. If you are able to tie some surface water in, you'll be able to maybe get ranked a little bit higher. So
yeah, so Mike and Dave, help us out here. That's a little discouraging, right, to hear how long it takes, but I'm happy to do it if there's a reasonable chance I'm gonna get the funding. Do you guys see half your customers that apply get it? 9 out of 10, 1 out of 10? What's your experience been?
I normally don't have a whole lot of growers that get denied. But it's usually because we're doing the whole thing for them, and when they get their design with the contract that we give them, I mean, we break it down into every pretty much detail that they're going to need for their application. Now, as far as everything else on the grower side, I don't know, but I mean, on our end, we normally don't have any issues.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really encouraging. Dave, you too?
And from our perspective, it's 100% approval, because we really are not involved until the project's already been approved and we're going in work and meeting whatever the minimum requirements would be. If it's simple as ET-based satellite imaging for ETC calculations at the end of the first year, or if it's putting a soil moisture probe in the field, or it's a full-blown automation system. So Mike or AgriValley or any of our dealers will call us, with a design option for a particular field, but we're usually not involved directly with the customer, so we don't know any names. And like I said, we're only involved when it's a go. So it's always good news for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to hear.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, that's pretty much about it. I do want to say I found an article the other day from the California Climate and Agriculture Network. I mean, there are other programs out there besides these two, and I kind of got a budget summary from this this group that's been working on putting this budget together for this coming year, the 22-23 California budget. I don't have it, I don't know how they're going to break it down, but from what the CalCan's written, it's a 2-part budget package. And some of these projects that I've heard about, we'll start with SWEEP. They're estimating to get $110 million.
Wow. Wow.
Last year it was 50.
Increase. Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be broken into 2 parts, if it's going to be one. I don't know how the CDFA is going to do that, but the Healthy Soils program is getting 85 million. And then there's the dairy methane program. We're starting to do a lot more of that here at Agri Valley as far as helping with the dairy methane issue. That's 83 million. So, I mean, there's stuff out there. There's a new program too for climate smart land management program that the governor came out. That's 14 million. Like, I mean, there's a lot of money out there. There's some stuff for the California Small Ag Business Drought Relief Grant Program. Like, I mean, there's stuff out there. How much we can help with them, I don't know, because I don't know about all these programs, but people need to, be resilient about these programs out there and apply for them if they can.
Yeah, well, it's certainly encouraging to hear that they're out there, that you've had a lot of success in getting the funding. Really the only holdup is the limit we place on ourselves as growers and ranchers if we don't do it. So I'm very excited about this after hearing from both of you today. Now, I see David and Mike, you both have your contact information. If I have more questions about these programs or want to get some help, okay for me just to reach out to you or any of our viewers to reach out?
Yeah, anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, I feel so much better prepared going into this now, thanks to both of you. Mike, great job in taking us through this process and making it reasonable and seeing the steps we have to take to kind of set our expectation. That was very helpful. And David, I really appreciated your comments here as well. So thank you guys for joining us today. And to our viewers, I want to say thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. I really appreciate that. I know how busy everybody is these days. So the fact that you took some of your day to be here to learn is just great. And remember, you can see all our trainings at the janesusa.com website. We've got over 200 trainings there now, as well as wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I just love that people are out working and educating themselves on irrigation, listening to our podcast at the same time. So again, guys, thank you very much. We will be back next week with a couple more webinars. Corey Broad's going to take us through on Wednesday how to properly make sure your irrigation system is designed with the right products to make maintenance and flushing a lot easier. So it should be a good one. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. We will see you later. Have a great weekend.